this was the movie that started it all. When Walt Disney started production on Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, there had never been a major motion picture that was entirely animated. Disney had been making animated shorts for theaters for about 10 years, and they had built a reputation for excellence in that time. Disney had primarily focused on children for his shorts, and the decision to animate a children's tale in a way that would appeal to families primarily through the eyes of children was not a mistake. Before this, animation was not entirely focused on children, though. Betty Boop, as innocent as she seems today, was considered somewhat more adult in the 1930s when she was created. In fact, Miss Boop had to be toned down when movie theaters and production companies decided to self-censor in order to avoid government regulation. This has always led me to wonder something. What if Fleischer Studios rather than Disney had been the first to produce a fully animated motion picture? And rather than focusing on children, they had leaned into the over-the-top capabilities of animation to create an animated tale aimed at more mature audiences. Not necessarily sexy like Betty Boop, but perhaps choosing a myth like Hercules, or even something biblical like the story of the Exodus. Neither the Hercules series with Kevin Sorbo nor Charlton Heston's 10 Commandments were ever considered a children's programming. So if something along those lines had been the first fully animated major motion picture, then the connection between animation and children's stories would not have been so firmly established so soon. While I'm not familiar with the history of animation in Japan, I've wondered if that's what happened there. Japanese animation has children's shows, but it also has very sophisticated animated movies and television shows that are aimed at teenagers and adults. Animation gives them the freedom to do things that are difficult or even impossible to do with photo filming. But even with that said, it's always fascinating to see that Disney is able to buy any rating they want for their grandfathered-in classics. Snow White is rated G. Despite watching the poison apple take the form of a skull, open discussion of cutting out a heart, poisoning, death, and fairly active romance on screen. No one except a major motion picture company like Disney would be able to get a G rating on that. Maybe our kids aren't entirely as fragile as we tend to think. Maybe our kids can handle a little more than we think they can. Or maybe it was wrong from the start to make movies for kids with so much violence and adult themes. What do you think? Are kids stronger than we give them credit, or should Snow White have gotten a PG rating when the rating system was created?